Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai, and welcome to the next instalment of the What's Your Story podcast. I'm really excited for today's guest, and it's quite credible that he is an entrepreneur. My next guest today has had lots of successful businesses, and we're going to look into some of those stories of those businesses and his personal journey to get to where he is today. And my guest is Mr. Chris Birch, and welcome to the podcast, Chris.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming down. What is today? A very sunny day in Llanelli. You've already been down the beach, haven't you, for a bit of a walk?
I had a wander down the beach. It was quite nice, actually. Yeah, it's very nice down here. You've got a nice place to wake up to.
Llanelli, it is nice. It does have nice parts. I do love living here. And thanks for coming down, Chris. I really appreciate it. And this podcast is all about stories, personal stories, business stories. And I think you've got a fantastic personal story to tell. So we talked a little bit earlier about entrepreneurship, and you're an entrepreneur. Is that fair to say?
I've won Entrepreneur of the Year, so they give you that title then. But yeah, I would say I'm an entrepreneur. I think that works. I get why people shy away from the term, but I think I've had a few businesses, so yeah, I'd probably say I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah.
I would say I've got entrepreneurial skills, to run a video business. I've got entrepreneurial skills. But I would say I'm a business owner. I don't go around calling myself an entrepreneur. But I think it's fair to say, with your track record, you're an entrepreneur.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I'll take it and I'll run with it. Yeah,
you'll take it. Take it with your award.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Award-winning entrepreneur.
I am. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Good. So we're in the year of 2024. You've had a series of successful businesses. Most of them have been successful.
I have, yeah.
I'm sure we'll hear a bit more about those. And you're going in a very different direction in wanting to teach and build a community in creative industries, which I'm very excited about because I'm a creative. But it's not all been plain sailing, is it?
Definitely not. No, it's a challenging one. I mean, you look at the original sort of to be honest with you, starting off, I started off in retail banking. I worked for the third largest bank in the world. I thought, when you just think I've got a job for life, that is going to be everything I'm going to do right up until the age of 65. I'm going to have quite a nice little pension, and then I'm going to go off on my merry way and enjoy my retirement like so many other people have done in the past. And then in 2008, we had the financial crash, aptly named at the time the credit crunch, which now sounds like a very expensive breakfast cereal. It's doesn't work very well. That joke has aged really badly as well. It doesn't. That was probably. I thought I could go straight from one banking job into another, if I'm totally honest with you. And I walked from one job pretty much straight into the other midway through the financial crash, and then they closed that bank. They actually closed that bank, so the entire company just disappeared. I went through a period where I had absolutely nothing. I went to my mum's house, and I said, I need some help here, because I've not got a job or anything like that. I was really close to my mum at that point, and she had just got married. And basically, she said no, she couldn't help me. I said, okay, right, that's fine. And the guy who I was renting my house off at that time, I actually worked with, or had worked with. So I didn't want to be the sort of person who'd be like, do you know what I mean? I can't afford to pay my rent, but I'm not leaving, that kind of thing. Like so many, there's this demographic of people who would definitely do that. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to leave. I'm just going to leave. And I had literally nowhere else to go. Do you know what I actually had? I had a Vauxhall Tigra. Do you remember them? Oh, they're still around now. The 2-seater sporty sort of thing. Very hairdresser's car.
Hairdresser
I'm allowed to say that.
You're allowed.
2-seater car, lovely, like a hard top sort of roof, absolutely awful to sleep in. And I can attest to that as well, because I slept in it because I refused point blank to ask for help. And now, in hindsight, that is a stupid, stupid decision. But at the time, it made complete sense.
Probably as a bloke, it's hard to ask for help.
Do you know it is? It really is. But it was tough. That was very, very difficult. And I slept in between sleeping in my car and sofa surfing, which I was an expert at doing that. Be like, oh, if you don't mind, I'll stay at your house this evening. It works, doesn't it? And I blagged that from a sales perspective very, very nicely. And I'm very good at sales. Like modest. But yeah, it's I sofa surfed for a bit, and my car was it was part financed. So I knew at some point, because it wasn't insured, it wasn't taxed, and the finance was due. I knew at some point I was going to be like, right, okay, someone's going to come and take this car off me. And so I opted to give it back. And I thought, oh, I literally have nowhere to go here now. So I gave them the car back, sold the stuff that was in the boot of my car. I gave some stuff to a friend and said, can you look after this while I'm looking for a new house, air quotes. Yeah, like that ever happened. Basically, I was full on homeless. I was sleeping in my car outside an industrial estate because I knew that was private land and they can't touch you there. It was such a financially very, very low point for me. That was quite tough, to be fair. That was quite tough. And I look back at that and I think, you should have asked for help sooner. What's wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? Honestly, what happened there? And I had to ask my dad, who worked away a lot. He was very so why didn't you come to me before? So him, my nan, they both said the same thing. You just think, why didn't I? That it's a stupid move. But yeah, that took me down a random road, and my nan, who had previously solved a problem, not as severe, for my cousin, because he needed a house. She knew the benefit system inside out because she'd done that for my cousin. She was like, we'll get you a flat, and she got me a lovely brand new. Oh, it was proper, really nice. She got me a really nice flat, and I was paying just over £60 a week for it. Can you imagine that now?
£60 a week.
£60.
My goodness.
I know. Yeah, would never happen now.
No.
And previously, I would spend more than that on a night out. Do you know what I mean? And you just think, change in perspective. So yeah, I would do that, and that they furnished it for me. They did everything for me. They were really cool, and I know I touched on it earlier, but I felt very much undeserving of that. And I know that again, now in hindsight, sounds absolutely pathetic, makes absolutely no rational sense. But I felt very much undeserving of that. And I've talked about this before. I'm quite open about this. And the one day I was just like, I'm so totally undeserving of it. I haven't earned this flat. I haven't earned this furniture. And again, completely irrationally, I was like, what am I going to do here? So I went to my nan's and my granddad's house. This sounds so ridiculous. I knew my granddad had morphine. He had morphine tablets, morphine drinks. He was, he's like an ill guy. He's like at the time then, he was in his late 80s, and he was shuffling around. So I thought, well, one morphine tablet seems to send him quite nicely off to sleep for an evening. I'm going to take 10. So I took them from his house, controlled drug, mind, right? I should have gone to prison and all sorts. I took them home, and I took all 10. I thought, oh, okay, that's fine, sorted, right? I don't know, completely irrational. I obviously in a really emotionally damaged place, and I didn't realize. And if it wasn't, I genuinely promise you, if it wasn't for, there was a friend of mine, Justin, and another friend, Vicky, and they had only been to the flat once, and they randomly decided to turn up, okay, and surprise me with we're going to go for some drinks, housewarming kind of style. And genuinely, if they hadn't turned up there and then, I would not be here having this conversation with you then. That's a very surreal moment for me. It's a very, and really weirdly, financially, not my worst time, because my worst time was behind me at that point. I had physically less, and I had like less in the bank. So I could, and even now, I can't really rationalize that, fully. I can't really rationalize where I was coming from there.
So you've hit rock bottom financially, and then in a separate part of your life, you've hit rock bottom emotionally.
Yeah, but they were 3 months apart, or maybe a little bit longer, but there wasn't much in it, and that was so strange because I had everything sort of going in the forward direction. So it was a really weird thing, and I still to this point can't completely rationalize that, and I was so like, I hate failing. I absolutely hate. And now I'm far more accepting of the fact that sometimes you just fail. And there's things that are completely out of your control. But at the time, I was like 23. So I was very much like, I am not allowed to fail. This is a failure. And I had failed in trying to kill myself, James. That was really difficult for me.
I don't know why I'm laughing at that.
No, it's fine. No, I laugh at it now. You've got to laugh at it. So I came round in the hospital, right? And it's so random. I came round in the hospital, and I'm lying there. And I knew my dad was next to me. I know I mentioned this. My dad was next to me. And I could, when you see someone out the corner of your eye and you know they're there. So I kept my eyes closed because I thought I don't want to speak to him, because then he's going to be like, oh, like, no, he's not like this at all. But like the concept of like, oh, well, I failed at this as well. And I thought I just didn't want to deal with that, the conversation. So I kept my eyes closed, right? I thought I can have a couple of hours now where I just think about what I'm going to say and how it was some sort of accident or something like that. I would figure it out. The nurse, I heard the nurse come into the room, or she opened the curtain kind of thing. Said, my dad said, how long? Because my dad smokes, right? And he said, how long is he likely to be unconscious for? And I was all wired up, right? And so she looked at the monitor and she said, oh, he's awake. And honestly, well, I won't tell you exactly what I thought at that point because I'm not going to swear on here. But I thought, well, you could have been a bit nicer to me. Could have given
you some time to sit there. And
could have. Yeah, and a little bit of time would have been nice. And then, oh God, that I never forget that car ride home. I say that I had to go to, I had to speak to somebody in the hospital because it was in the poisons unit and all these sorts of things. I had to do that. Came out of that, and on the drive home, the longest 30 minutes of my life, because it's just me and my dad. We sat in silence for the first 15 minutes of that ride, and that 15 minutes is about 3 years. I'm telling you now, that's about 3 years that felt. And he started talking, and I thought, okay, right, we can go from there. And he said, you can't do that again. You can't do that again. I like said, and he was like, my dad is he is the one person I can go and, like, my partner, yes, as well, but he's the one person I can go and talk to about pretty much anything, and he'll just, he'll say it as it is. He's very Valley's in that sense, Valley's dad, but he's also very caring at the same time, but not outwardly, he cares, but he doesn't necessarily need to say it, that kind of thing. And he was very much, you can't do that again. And he said, I don't know why you did it. You know why you did it. Perhaps you don't know why you did it. And you can talk to your counselor. You can talk to me. You can talk to anybody. You don't have to talk to anybody about it. That's absolutely fine. We don't have to have that conversation, right? Which I actually really appreciated. And I think he knew that. And he said, look, I am here to chat. We can talk. You can talk to his wife, my stepmom. You can talk to your nan. You can talk to anybody. You can talk to anybody. You can talk to nobody. But we do need to move on from you. You need to move forward. And you can't lull in this. And he said, look, you can go and enroll in college, right? And I thought, okay, right, no, give me something to do. And he said, you can get a skill. And he said, I tell you what, if you've got a practical skill, you can go and see your uncle and your auntie in Australia if you want to, because then you've got a skill. You can go there. You're under 25, you can go there. Do you want to go and do something like that? Because they own like a ranch out there, like a cattle ranch. You can go out there and go and do that. I thought, oh, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Let's go and do that. And I rang him. I was at the college, right? I rang a couple of weeks later and I said, the only courses left, plumbing and hairdressing. What do you think? And he was like, you'd be a beep plumber. So
terrible plumber.
Yes, that'll do. So go for hairdressing. So I went for hairdressing. And there I met my partner. we are still together now. It's 15, possibly 16.
Wow.
I won't commit to say 15 or 16. I'll figure that out later. But it's that many years later.
He's not listening to the podcast.
No, he'd be fine. He'd be fine. I hope not. Yeah, 15 or 16 years we've been together now. But really randomly, I was like, we hadn't been together long. And I said, my dad said that I can go and move out to Australia. Do you want to come with me? Can you imagine, like now, like looking back at that, I think we had only been together like 3 months or something like that. And like, you're like still getting to know each other. And you're like, do you want to come to the other side of the world with me and come and like work on a cattle ranch? That sounds such a stupid concept at that point. But
so college, there were 2 courses left. You pick hairdressing,
yes.
hair and beauty probably. It was hairdressing.
Just hairdressing, strictly hairdressing. Can you imagine me doing nails? Well, actually, can you imagine me now doing hairdressing? I don't know. Go on.
So you find yourself in college, learning a new skill, and then you somehow end up working as a cleaner part-time?
Well, so I finished the, you need money, don't you? You know, like, I think it was ALG, which is the adult learning grant thing.
College is, I did college, right? I did 2 years in college.
Yeah.
It's not like a student loan when you go to uni. There is no funding that helps support you. You've got to work a job.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You've got to do something. So I did cleaning. This lady, she took me on. She said, we were living in Cardiff. She said, right, student properties, they always need cleaning in the summer. For me, I thought it's no brain work. You know, you can just do something else. I can put an Audible book in or something like that, and I can just be cleaning, you know? And she said, oh, you're really good at this. Now, no one else has ever told me I'm good at cleaning, James, right? So it's recorded on a podcast. She said that, right? She said, look, I can keep you on all through the summer. When we get to September, I got no work for you, to be perfectly frank. She said, if you want to go self-employed, I can sub out to you every now and again, and you can go off and do your own thing if you wanted to. And I thought, well, do you know what? It's not a bad idea. I'm going to do that. But if I'm going to go self-employed, I'm not just going to go self-employed and work for her every now and again. It's all or nothing. You got to do it, haven't you? So I did that. And I set up a cleaning company. And the reason we called it Apollo, I'm not imaginative to a certain extent. It was because a bottle of Lynx deodorant was under the seat of my car, and it rolled out and it was called Lynx Apollo. I thought, there we are. It can't be called Lynx because people will know what that is, but Apollo. And I thought it'll be high up on Yellow, the Yellow pages, you know, so Yell.com.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was switched on from that point.
That's the old Admiral trick. Did you know that?
No.
That's why Admiral, the insurance company, is called Admiral.
No, is it really?
And they also had, I know this because I've worked with them,
right.
But they've got subsidiary car insurance names. So there was Admiral, what's the B one? I can't remember the B one. Elephant.
Right.
You had all these names that they were just picking out.
Oh, dotted through.
Sort of top of the Yellow pages.
That's very clever. Oh, I like that.
So yeah, Apollo, good name for the Yellow pages.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so you came up with a name inspired by Lynx.
Yes.
So thank you, Lynx.
Yes, very. I don't credit them, but now they're credited.
They want shares now.
Yeah, no, sorry, it's gone now.
It's gone.
So yeah, I set it up, and I thought it's going to be a 1 or 2 man band, me and my partner. Right, we'll do that in amongst because at that point I'd finished hairdressing. And I liked learning, so I thought I'm going to do a degree. I never finished a degree. I'm going to do a degree. So I did it in creative industries, in drama. And I loved doing that. But again, doesn't pay the bills. You've got to do something else. So I'm doing this cleaning thing. It's building up quite nicely. And the one day, right, now we're going to credit Rated People for a second, right? Do you remember that? It's like it's a website. It's like bark.com. It's like My Builder, all these sorts of things. Someone puts a job on for free, and then you've got to pay to get their number, essentially, right? Well, Rated People did it a bit differently, and they put request for the phone number, but there would be a little map, and the little map had a little dot on it and said roughly where this is. Well, I was looking at this one day, and I thought, well, this is going to cost me 60 quid to get this lead. I'm not doing that. And then I realized it's right around the corner from my dad's house, right? And there's only 2 units on that site there. I thought, okay, what I'll do, I'll go up there. And one of them was What? Do you remember that shop? I don't know if it's still around, actually. It's like, like bits and bobs sort of shop. And the other one was Morrison's. So I'll start in Morrison's, because if it's not there, I'll go and get a drink. So I went to the cigarette kiosk, went there, and I said to the woman, I said, oh, I understand you're looking for a cleaner. And she said, oh, it's that guy there. Just go and see him there now a minute. So I walked over to him, and I had asked the woman what his name was. So I walked over, and he was showing round the cleaners. the potential new cleaning contractors. So I joined these people. I was like, okay, I'll keep walking around. And when we got to the end, do you have any questions? I had a million because I hadn't been given the spec at the beginning because, of course, I just turned up. So he very kindly emailed me the spec. And at the end, then he was like, so were you part of this? I was like, well, no, to be honest with you. He said, because all these people were national cleaning companies, right? And there's me from down the road. And he said, well, I only put that rated people thing on just in case someone else wanted to, potentially bid. But he said I didn't get any interest. And I thought, well, that's because I didn't pay for that lead. And so I just turned up and I didn't hear anything. That was sort of October time. Didn't hear anything. And I thought, oh, okay, well, I didn't get that. I understand. But at the very least, he could have got back to me. And I remember where I was, right? Tesco, Pengham Green in Cardiff, right? Wandering around. And it was either Christmas Eve or the day before. And it was me and my partner. We were wandering around there. And I get this phone call. And I'd saved his number. So it came up and I was like, right, okay, I know who this guy is now. I need to pay attention, right? So... And I am not like, at this point, not a formal person whatsoever, but I'm like, hello, Chris speaking, how can I help? And I thought, I've got to like make my way through this. I got to fake it, right? And he said, oh, we really liked your quote. We'd like to offer you the job. It starts now on the second week of January. And I'm like, okay.
So you get your first commercial cleaning job on a phone call in Tesco.
Either Christmas Eve or the day before. And he said, I'm going to send the contract out now before I go off on leave. Right. And so he was off all over Christmas and New Year. And he came back in the early January. Bear in mind, I had to work then pretty much solidly over Christmas and get all of because I'd not done risk assessments and method statements. I'd not registered for CIS and all these sorts of other things that you need to do in order to comply with their policies and procedures. And it was an initial 18-week contract. So, okay, right. Okay, I've got to nail this. I need to know what I'm doing. So that was for a renovation clean. So I also needed to employ people because it was the top end of the valleys away from where I was living. I thought, well, I can't I've got to employ people. So I had to do all of that between Christmas and New Year. And very thankfully, I worked so hard to get that right. And because I got that right, that guy then gave me another one and another one and another one. And he left and went to a different company and then kept my details so that he could ring me for other stuff. And the people who took over from him carried on giving me the work. So I ended up going nationwide, essentially. At one point, we're looking like 4 years down the road from there, but 4 years from then, we had, a Costa Coffee in Elgin in Scotland, which is the northernmost point where the guys from the oil rigs, when they finished on the oil rigs, they come and they land in the helicopter and nip into Costa. We did that clean there. That was part of our cleaning contract. And we also had this piddly little Morrison's down in some random dingle at the other end of the world, down sort of Cornwall direction. You couldn't go much more sort of westerly in England. We went down there and did that job as well. So we were at both ends of the scale. We did the Olympic Park on the close down from the Olympic ceremony and all these sorts of things. We did loads of stuff. And at our peak, we had a team working. Oh, James, we had a team that started 5 o'clock on Boxing Day morning and would continue to clean, obviously not the same staff, they would rotate, but continue to clean from 5 a.m. on Boxing Day all the way through until 11 p.m. Christmas Eve the following year. We were a 24/7 company for years, and I would wake up to phone calls at 4 o'clock in the morning and I would turn my phone off at 11 o'clock at night so I'd go to sleep. And that was my life for 7-ish, 8 years, something like that.
It's nice you gave them Christmas Day off.
I am good like that. I'm good.
Wow. So yeah. That's a real amazing story of growth, and you set a skill in the company and it was doing quite successful. So that was your first big business. And how did you end up from the cleaning then to the other businesses?
Right. So it always starts with a problem for me. I am very a solution-focused person. We were talking about this earlier. I am very solution-focused. If you've got a problem, I am the one who can help fix that. But I need to know what the problem is. And for me, a lot of the time, the problem was third parties. So my first problem was my accountant. So my accountant, for me, charged me a fortune. And I didn't feel like I was getting value for money. I also had a massive tax bill that happened, completely blindsided me, messed up my cash flow for about 2 or 3 months. So I thought, do you know what? I need to employ my own accountant. And I thought, well, they're going to cost a fortune. What I'll do, I'll find an accountant that wants to set up an accountancy practice, and I'll work with that person to form a company. That company then I will become a half shareholder of, and we'll work together. And that can do my accounts for free. Kind of worked out that way. But also it can build up clients. We can pull clients in, and it would become its own thing. So we basically vertically integrated in that sense. We brought our external contractors as part of our company. So we did that. That was the one. Then I wanted to offshoot the housekeeping side of things. Domestic cleaning, if you've owned a cleaning company or you own a cleaning company, domestic cleaning, household cleaning, housekeeping, whatever you want to call it, that is the worst part of the company, right? Because it requires a lot of staff, a lot of traveling. Usually it's 2 hours here, 3 hours there. It's a potch. It is a real potch. But I wanted to keep it because it gives you presence in South Wales, which I didn't really have because we were a national company and all of our staff tended to be dual branded with us and Morrison's or us and IKEA or whatever it was. So we would, so you wouldn't really have our presence. And I really wanted our presence in Cardiff and in South Wales. So we kept the housekeeping, but I wanted to spin it off. So I spun it off into another company. And at the same time, I thought, well, Airbnb is on the rise. Let's manage some of these people's Airbnb properties because we're already doing it. We're already doing the cleaning. Let's do the linen. Let's package all these things together. And we worked with an estate agency to do that. And I eventually, we took that on as our own as well because we didn't get on with them either. And we pulled this company into existence as a property management company, which also had an offshoot then of cleaning. And my friend, he's my business partner now for another company. So he was my landlord for a while when we first moved to Cardiff, and he said, "Oh, I'm not happy with my property management company, like a estate agent." And he said, "Do you want to take on some of my properties? Do you want to take on my property portfolio?" And I said, Yeah. You're not going to say no. How can you say no to an opportunity? So I said, okay, I'll do that. I didn't realize he had like 200 plus properties. I thought we were looking like 5. I had no idea of scale. I just said yes.
So I bit off more than you could chew.
Oh yeah, that's a regular thing for me. That's a regular thing. But you just got to run with it, haven't you? So I had to do the regulation. I had to do the Rent Smart Wales thing because that had just come in. The tenant fee ban had just come in, so we couldn't monetize anything in that sense. So it was we were like working with a completely different skill set, but we pulled that in as well. So that meant that we were bringing in and we were diversifying. Took my eye off the ball with the cleaning company. I know I mentioned this earlier. I consider myself very good at sales, but I need to, when I have a sales team, I need to make sure that the sales team are kept on form. And I took my eye off the cleaning company for a little while we were setting up the accountancy, while we were setting up the property management. And the cleaning company suffered a little there. We took a manageable but a sizable drop in turnover. It was like 200,000. We'd lost a few contracts. Well, no, I say we'd lost. We hadn't gained them. We put the pitch in and the pitch wasn't approved. And I think that's because I took my eye off the ball there. And I'm quite happy to accept that. I'm not infallible. But it needed me as well. So I couldn't really completely take my eye off the ball with that. But I learned a lot at the same time, and we ended up with a large company. We ended up with, at one point we had a team in the cleaning side of things, cleaning and facilities. We had people working across the UK 24 hours a day, obviously not individually, but 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we had a team of just over 300, and that's a chunky company. That does really, really well. Doesn't feel like that now, and how to manage those people is a nightmare. So, people management for me is king. If you can, because you're making such a tight margin off people, you've got to make every penny count. Like I had this one woman once because we were basically creating layers. So I wanted team leaders, I wanted senior team leaders, I wanted contract managers, I wanted this layering system so that I wasn't dealing with 300 people, I was dealing with like 40. I thought that would work. And I had this really random story. I'll tell you this story. So this woman, she said to me once, she came to work for us from another cleaning company, which I'm always very happy with because they usually come with a few bad habits, but they're pretty good. So she came in and she's lovely, really, really nice. And she was doing this really good contract for us and she was running the team, but she wasn't a team leader. Well, of course, in the sense of, in fairness, you have to, if you want to put a team leader in, you've got to put the job advert out. And I thought she'd applied for it, and she didn't apply. And I thought, why not apply for this? So I sat down with her one day in a very similar way to this, interview style. I had a conversation with her, and I had a coffee with her. And I said, I won't mention her, but she's happy for me to talk about these sorts of things. And I said, why didn't you apply for this? And she said, she broke down in tears. And I am not that person. You can't, don't speak to me about it. Don't break down in tears in front of me, because it just isn't going to happen. You will get this face. I don't know what to do. And I haven't got the range. And she said, I can't read. Right? And I thought, well, what do you do there? How do I fix that? So I said, look, and of course, team leader, you need to be able to write reports. You need to tick things. You need to do these sorts of things. And I said, okay. I said, you happy for me to work on this with you? And she said, okay. So I went back to the office and I spoke to my partner, who was also my business partner. You know, let's make it incestuous. And I said, look, I just finished my teacher training at my PGC. And I said, look, I've got a friend. She's going to teach this woman to read. I said, we didn't tell anybody, only the two of us, because we had to pay the bill. That's the only reason. We both knew. And we taught her to read. And she became team leader. And do you know the one bit for me that I love? It's very rewarding, and I quite like it, is she was able to help her kids with their homework. And that is one of those things that, cleaning company aside, money being made aside, that was such a nice thing to do that we didn't have to do. That's the government's responsibility. That is not my as an employer's responsibility. But I wanted her to be team leader. I had that goal in mind, and she gave me an obstacle, and I had to overcome that if I wanted her to do the job. And then, so I don't know, I think a year went by or something like that, and she left, right? And I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted, because she was a really good member of staff. And I understood, because she went for an office job, and she would never have had that office job if I hadn't had that conversation with her. You know, that's such a strange, random situation where I wanted her to be team leader. And off the back of that, we ended up with, I believe we're the only people who have had Employer of the Year 2 years as a winner consecutively. I believe that's still the same, because of stories like that, where we have gone above and beyond to help, because retention in cleaning is huge. It's such a massive problem, because people dip from one to the other, like an extra 10 pence here, an extra 50 pence an hour there, they're going to move. So we were able to retain staff with things like that, because we can't pay them a fortune. You can't pay them a fortune, because people won't pay a fortune for cleaning. So you've got to find other things that work. And that was what worked.
So award-winning entrepreneur and cleaning, what was it? Cleaning company of the year?
No, Cleaner of the Year. I would never win that award. No, Entrepreneur of the Year, and 2 times Employer of the Year.
2 times Employer of the Year, 2 times back-to-back champions.
Yes.
At Entrepreneur of the Year.
Yeah.
Fantastic. So you had a good spell of running these businesses.
Yep.
You found problems that needed solutions, and you provided those solutions. You brought other people in with different skill sets. Then, kind of accidentally made a business through like the accountancy practice or the property management. They just fell into your lap. But you haven't got all these businesses now. You've exited.
We have.
Because you're going on a different trajectory.
Yes.
I think there's the coffee shops, actually. There's something where you had great successful businesses.
Yeah.
You then went to have a quick go at coffee.
Oh, James, coffee shops. Oh, never do it. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea.
Well, last guest was a coffee shop, actually.
Oh, okay, right.
They're doing very well.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, and I'm sure most people make an absolute success of it, right? I thought I sold the companies, right? Sold all the companies. They were either pre-COVID or just during COVID, that kind of thing, that sort of era. So we were left with stuff, like nothing to do, nothing. And I thought, we're blinging heck, right? What am I going to do? Still had some property management, or still had the property management company. I got some Airbnbs here. Coffee shop would do well quite nicely here. Let's speak to the landowner. Let's make a coffee shop. So we made a coffee shop right there in Cowbridge. Lovely place, really picturesque, worked incredibly well. very, very popular. Instantly opened the door. It was popular. My partner's an interior designer. It looked good. I put the right people in place because I thought I don't know. Like, I know what I like to eat, but that's it. So I thought, right, we got to put the right people in from the start. We brought in a trained barista. We brought in a chef. We did it. We did the works. We did it really, really nicely, and we scaled it a little bit quickly. In all fairness, we doubled the size of that building. We got another 2 buildings on lease, and then we got a wedding venue on lease. So we had 4 going, either in or just around the Vale. And it worked really, really well. And then it just didn't. We had this cost of living crisis and the media that surrounded the cost of living crisis, because I think the media was worse than the actual effect. I think that was the problem.
I think that was true. Definite.
Yeah. I just think it was hammered home with you hour after hour after hour to keep the news cycle going. And I think it made people, it pulled people out of the luxury, I use air quotes, but yeah, luxury sort of market, and pulled them back into the essentials. And the essentials for them wasn't going to an independent coffee shop for some reason. That was the luxury. It was going back to Starbucks or going back to Costa for some stupid reason. That's how they saw it. And so we scaled it right back to 1, the first one that we opened. And then I found out, I don't talk about this very often, but I found out that the planning had been declined on the building, and we weren't aware of that. The landowners had it declined, and it was pending enforcement. If it was very busy, I get on really well with the local authorities when it comes to planning, because we deal a lot with them anyway for other things. And I thought I thought I could figure this out. I can figure this out. But to be honest with you, James, it had gone from balancing costs to losing money, and it at its peak it was losing. In total, after we closed it, we did the books, and it's lost me and my partner about 80 odd grand. I say it's chunky money. That's not to be thrown away. I could do something far more with that. We had to close it because I gave the guys, we ended up with 3 guys working there. I gave them as much notice as possible. I said, look, I'm not going to make this public yet, but we're going to close. It's going to happen in December. If you find another job, please go for that job. Go and do that job, because you never want to make someone redundant. I've had that. It's happened. I don't want to do it. So let's avoid that where we possibly can. And they went and found other work. My partner and I, we closed the place down for like the last 2 weeks. I was the barista. I can make a decent coffee. And we closed it down. And so that was the end. So yeah, we had some really, really great successes, but we've also had that one as a very much, I wasn't aware of the sector I was walking into, which is key. I was, because I didn't know enough about it, I employed the right people. I thought that was a good step, and it is a good step. However, I felt like I was, because I was lacking in knowledge, I felt like I was perhaps a little naive there, and the learning curve for me was far too steep, and I already had my fingers in lots of other pies, because it's a cafe. Oh dear.
For the puns today.
I just thought, right, okay, I can do this. And I think because it was initially very successful for the first year, I thought this will keep going, and I didn't factor in external factors like the what was it, like we didn't have a recession. What do they call it this time? I'm thinking, for some reason, credit crunch is in my head.
Credit crunch, we've had recessions, it was cost of living.
Cost of living, that's the one.
Cost of living crisis. Yeah.
So that one, I think that was I hadn't factored that into my thinking. So yeah, I closed that down. And then we've basically sat on, I've dabbled in coaching, I've dabbled in mentoring. I've mentored with people like Business Wales and stuff like that for 10, 11 years now. And I dabbled in coaching. And I thought I want to do something a little bit more meaningful, if I'm totally honest with you.
Yeah. So looking back, you've got some very successful businesses. You've grown businesses out of nothing, coming from a place of homelessness. And it sounds like a fantastic story. And you've got all this knowledge and skill. And then you've gone into a different industry and no knowledge in, given it a go. And, it's failed.
Yeah.
You had success. You employed lots of staff. But you had to let people go, which is never easy, is it? And you've lost personal money. Would you do that again?
Well, I would go into a sector that I didn't know about again. What I would do differently, most definitely, is I would probably research it an awful lot more. I think by being a patron of a cafe, I knew how it ran. And I thought with the right people in place, I thought that would be the thing that would add to my skill set to open that. And I think what I needed to have done is I needed to have gone into a coffee shop as an employee and worked in there for a few months, which I'm always prepared to do as like a shadow sort of thing and try and figure it out, go undercover, that sort of style, and try and figure out how it works. And I didn't do that in that industry, and I should have done that. Like this, if most other industries, you ring and you can find out a quote, and you can be a little bit on the inside. You can find out what other people are doing in your sector. And I thought in a cafe environment, I thought I could do that by being a customer, and you can't. You've got to be the other side of the counter. So that's what I learned there. In food and beverage, just in general, I don't think I would enter that sector again, if I'm totally honest with you. Not that I feel burnt by it, but I feel like it's a lot of hard work. Like in cleaning, you make money off a margin. You make it off your hourly rate. In this, but you know what your customers are going to be. You know when you wake up in the morning how many customers you've got that day or how many you've got that week. Usually that is fixed and final because you're in a contract. You're in a 3-year or 5-year contract or something. You don't know. You've got to put people in that cafe. You don't know if one person's going to turn up or 100 people are going to turn up. And it could literally be on the weather, and you don't know. And you don't even know if the weather makes it busier or quieter. Because will people stay for longer when it's raining or not come out because it's raining? So it's a really strange scenario. And I found that incredibly difficult. And that for me is the reason I probably wouldn't enter food and beverage again. And if I did, which I had this conversation the other day, if I did re-enter that market, it would only be strictly a cafe, like literally serving coffee and cake. That would be it. It would be no cooked food. There would be nobody in the kitchen, no massive expenses.
Yeah, food and drink. It's a tough business to make a profit.
Oh yeah,
and you're relying on customers because if you don't have people walk through the doors, you've still got those bills you've got to pay out.
Yeah,
it's tough.
Doesn't work.
You've had a go, and you've learned lots of things.
I have,
and want to take a different direction in your sort of personal journey. You've got that background academically in drama.
Yes.
So tell me a bit about what you're building with this new community interest company.
Well, so I enjoyed coaching. I enjoyed teaching people. I enjoy speaking. I enjoy all these sorts of things. I don't shut up half the time, James, to be honest with you. But what I found where we were in COVID, artists suffered. Artists and creative people definitely suffered. In my opinion, they were probably one of the worst in terms of support that was available. There was support available for loads of people except for artists because their income sort of fluctuates, artists and creatives, because it fluctuates.
Most of the time, they might have been sole traders.
Exactly.
They might not even have a registered business.
That's the problem.
Which in COVID, those people weren't supported at all, were they?
Yeah. So I thought, right, I tell you what happened, right? I'll tell you briefly what happened. So there was a lady a really good friend of mine. I did my PGCE with her, right? She's really nice. She's an artist, very creative person, fantastic artist. However, has little business acumen. And that's not a failing. That's a lack of knowledge. And I put her in touch with Business Wales. And there's nothing wrong with Business Wales whatsoever. I'll preface that. However, they are corporate. They are they're built for the SME. They're built for certain industries more than other industries. And I feel like sometimes the artists and the creatives are left out in the wind a little bit. So we realized this was a massive gap, and she wasn't aware that she could get grants and she can get, you can go to Arts Council Wales and all these things. And I think, well, why don't you know that? What are we missing in society in terms of knowledge and education and being able to pass that on? How can we make artists and creative people more entrepreneurial? Yeah. How can we make them more business savvy? How can we turn their hobby or their side hustle into a full-time business? And what's the thing stopping them? And usually it's knowledge. They're afraid to register for self-employment. Do they need insurance? All these things. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to coach them. And I thought, I can't coach them because I haven't got any money. I know that sounds ridiculous, but usually very, very small creative artists, that kind of thing, the money isn't there to be able to coach them. So I thought, you know what? Let's set up a community interest company. So my partner and I are doing that at the moment, so that we can support artists, creatives, so that we can support these people who need this level of support and need this access to information, but don't necessarily know where to go, and the people that they do go to don't have the knowledge and skill set to be able to help them to that level. So we're going to set up. So actually, I finished the CIC incorporation yesterday. So that will be a fully fledged thing. It is built off the back of other little side projects that I've done and stuff like that. And we're basically pulling all that together as one solid entity. And what we're going to do eventually is it'll probably happen first quarter, maybe second quarter next year. There will be a space in Cardiff that is going to be partially funded by us, partially funded by someone, maybe Arts Council Wales or something like that. It's going to be pulled together, and it's going to be a music studio, and it's going to be a creative hub. So it's going to have a podcasting booth, a soundproof room for musicians and podcasters to go in and use as cheap as we possibly can. It's going to have a kiln room. It's going to have an artist studio space. But what it's going to do, it's going to bring these people together. So if I've given a bit of information to one person and I've given a different bit of information to another person, when they're all in the same room together, they're all going to have a conversation. So for one thing, I am going to tell, one-to-one, I am going to tell the same bit of information to multiple people. I can just say it to one person, and because they're a community then, they can all work together. And then what we can do is we can go out there as a collective of people, and all these artists can go and do a grand exhibition together, and we can apply for one set of funding for all of those people because they're more likely to get it. So it's more of a passion than it is a moneymaker, if I'm totally honest with you. But ultimately, like I was saying earlier, I need to make money in some way because, I've got to sustain my own life. So as long as it pays my bills, and as long as, it sounds awful to say, I got a friend who always says this, as long as it washes its face. She says something else as well, but I definitely won't say that. So she always says that. But as long as it sort of like covers its own bills, and as long as it can cover me and my bills and match my income to a certain level, then I'm completely happy. So that is more of a passion project than it is a fun, a money maker. It's never going to make lots of money because we're in the creative sort of artist sector. But yeah, that's where I'm going for now.
So you're building a creative community in Cardiff.
Yes.
Which is exciting. As a creative myself, something I'm working on, building a creative community in West Wales and South Wales called Catref Creative, which is, you may not know about.
I don't tell me.
Well, I'm going to give you a bit of an advert. Well, essentially, it's a creative network built by creatives for creatives for people to find a space, a community to be a part of, to connect, to get inspired, to get encouraged. And there's also lots of other things, down the line, potentially. You can have like joint ventures for bids, right? Where maybe a team of small creatives can maybe bid for some work where, you could compete against an agency.
Yeah, 100%.
Because whether you are a one-man band, there's probably just as much talent in those people compared to agencies. But
100%.
That's kind of like, it's developing. It was actually set up through For the Region. So For the Region, I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes,
them.
yeah.
So, I'm actually a member of For the Region, and it came out of a conversation that there was appetite in the network to set up a creative network. So it became this idea within For the Region. I think we soft launched early this year in Swansea. We got over 200 people on a mailing list now. And we've got lots of events. We've already had events in Llanelli, Carmarthen. We've got one in Cardigan coming up now in September. There's Neath. Yeah, so it's almost like we're going on tour.
Yeah, that sounds brilliant.
It's really good. It's good fun.
Let me know about that. I'd like to come along to that.
You'll have to come along to some of these events.
I would love to.
I'm excited to hear about this venture in Cardiff because it's a great hub of creativity. But also, Wales, as you know, is very creative.
Oh, 100%.
There are so many creatives across this country.
But I find pulling them together is the thing. We need more, and I'm not talking about the shops, we need more co-ops. We need more people who are prepared to work together and put a little bit of the ego aside. We're entrepreneurs, or we're entrepreneurial. We don't always have, we all have an ego to a certain extent, but if you put a little bit of it to the door and sort of work together and create something bigger and work together to create that thing that's bigger, you can end up achieving far more. And I think that's what you're, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I think that's what you're trying to achieve. And that's also what I'm trying to achieve. And I think it's the way creatives as a sector needs to move forward in Wales for support.
Yeah, definitely. So, as we finish on this creative community, your passion project, do you have a name? Is there a brand already existing?
Yes.
Is it something you're working on?
So, the project is going to be called The Edit. Now, the reason it's called The Edit is because my podcast is called The Edit, and a magazine that's coming out very shortly in arts and culture is going to be called The Edit. So it makes sense to call it that. But the space, now I am not a Welsh speaker, so I apologize about this in advance.
Can help you out with
that. But thank you. Yes, I might take you up on that. So the space, though, that's going to be in Cardiff is going to be called Galwad.
Galwad.
Yeah. Am I right?
Galwad.
Galwad or WOD? Now,
So,
I
as
basically...
in the calling or
it's a calling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Galwad.
To help people who've got an artistic calling, to bring them all together. So...
I like that.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. So it's going to be cool. It's going to be nice. It's going to be like a nice space where people can just get together, chill, and work together creatively without necessarily worrying about massive budgets or huge expenses for offices or kilns or electric costs, that sort of thing, because it'll all be pooled together in one space. That's the plan.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Exciting. Oh, Chris, it's been great to chat with you today. I've learned so much about your personal journey, and hopefully this has been an inspiration to people listening that even if they hit rock bottom, it's not the end. People have value on their lives, especially those who are creative. And I think I've learned a lot from your experiences. Now, if there's anyone who wants to get in touch with you, learn more about this creative community you're establishing, how can people reach out, get in touch with you?
Oh, the easiest way for me is Instagram. That's probably the best way to find me. That's the best way to do any research on me, to be totally honest with you as well. So I'm, Instagram, Chris J. Birch. I'm sure if you just type in Chris Birch, you'll find me.
Yeah, can we put in the edit here somewhere?
Yeah, just put it underneath me somewhere.
Put it underneath, Chris. Fantastic. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome to come back here, and thanks for sharing your story.